Thanks, everyone. We actually exceeded our 500 capacity in no time at all, and we opened a phone line for an additional 100 people, and that was exceeded in less than 24 hours. So we've had an extra 200 people trying to register, and I apologize that we didn't have space for you all, but hopefully in the future we'll have a bigger platform. So we do have people attending from Hawaii all the way to Massachusetts, so we've got a lot of folks coming in from all over across the government. So before we start and I introduce our distinguished speaker today, I'm going to just give you a quick run through of the Federal Leadership Seminar Series and just give you a little introduction about the series. So we started the series in September, and our sponsor is MAGIC, the Making AHRQ Great Implementation Committee. The goals of the seminar series are to share federal leader expertise and lesson learned, also provide free training at a time when resources are limited for many folks, and also bring individuals together across the government and foster intra and interagency connections, collaboration, and sharing. Eventually, I'm hoping to turn it into a listserv so that people can talk to each other in the gap between the seminars, so that may come down the pike. But for now, thank you all for joining these seminars. So our reach so far, as I said, is government-wide now, and really happy to see it. So far, we've reached the continental U.S. and Hawaii, and there is talk now about interest in federal employees who are stationed abroad also attending. So it's been really great. I'm happy to see all the interest in the series. This slide here just shows some of the quotes from previous attendees, and I think it's really great to see how there really is an advantage to have federal leaders really sharing their expertise and different agencies hearing lessons learned from each other. If you're in the room, you received a little green leaf. At the end of the seminar, if you could write your biggest lesson learned from the seminar on your leaf, I will go on the tree of learning as you when you came in. So for the folks that are on the phone or on the webinar, there's a 7-foot tree, and the leaves on the tree are actually lesson learned from the past seminars. If you are attending remotely, you can just email me, and I will add your lesson learned to a leaf. So just as a disclaimer here, none of the statements in the seminar are or should be construed as an official position of AHRQ, HHS, or any other federal agency. And give a heads up that our next seminar is on June 8th. Bob Huttenlocker from USDA is going to be presenting on advancing your federal career. So for more information, feel free to contact me. And now on to introducing today's seminar. So today's topic is maximizing employee engagement, how effective communication can build trust in leadership and maximize engagement. This timely topic is going to be presented by Becky Johnson. Becky comes to us today from the IRS, where she is the Director of the Human Capital Office Risk Engagement, Finance Systems, and Strategy Division. Becky graduated summa cum laude with a BS in Business Administration from the University of Akron. Did I pronounce that right? Yes. Okay. Okay. She has master's degrees, multiple, in Strategic Public Relations and Professional Studies, and is a certified coach and PMP. She is currently pursuing further education and implementing servant leadership from the Robert Greenleaf Organization. Becky began her IRS career over 30 years ago as a collection revenue officer in Ohio and has worked in both the IRS compliance and the operational support organizations. From various roles in collection, taxpayer education, leadership and education, human capital and strategy, and finance, Becky has a unique perspective of the many facets of IRS. She became the first IRS Engagement and Organizational Improvement Director in 2014 and led the IRS to back-to-back years of engagement score increases in 68 out of the 71 questions. Becky is currently on a detail to the Communication and Liaison Office, where she is assisting with formalizing and improving the congressional communication efforts. Becky resides in Alexandria, Virginia, with her husband Jeff and 3 cats, Herbie, Natasha, and Stella. Please join me in welcoming Becky.
So first off, thank you to all of you, and thank you to Alfred, Walter, Monique, Kim, Jim, B. There were several others with me. I'm high maintenance, and it kind of takes a village with me. Okay, so big thanks to all of you for coming today and participating on our employee engagement session. And this time of year, this is absolutely perfect timing, right? So many of you know right now, the government overall is in the midst of the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. Right? I know it's supposed to be anonymous, but anyone who wants to raise their hand saying they took it, feel free. Okay, I took mine. Okay. What I do want to say, and if you get nothing else out of this session, and I please hope that you get more than this out of the session, but if you don't, the Viewpoint Survey is just a snapshot in time. Okay? It is not employee engagement. It's an indicator of employee engagement, okay? And so what I mean by that is you can learn from it, see what happened at a point in time, okay? But that is truly not employee engagement. And what we're going to spend our time with today is what is employee engagement, that it's a year-long, day-to-day effort. It's not a special project. It's not a, oh my gosh, this is an add-on if I'm a manager. Okay? This is part of your responsibility as a leader. Okay? You with me so far? People in the room, raise your hand if you're with me. Woohoo! Okay, we're making progress. All right. In the room also, I'm sorry, but I wear my little Dollar Tree glasses to read, okay? I got zillions of pairs. I lose them all the time, but they're $1, and then I can throw them away if I break them. Okay, so one of the quotes that I had written down as I was thinking about this is, true leadership must be for the benefit of the followers, not to enrich the leader. And that's by John C. Maxwell, okay? So as we go through the session today, I want you to think about that. Because employee engagement really is about the leader and his or her relationship with the team members individually. Okay? Also, let me say, as we're talking about this session, I will try to make it a bit participatory, because I can yabber on and on and on and on and on for days, okay? But that's boring as heck for all of you. So we will try to do some participatory, and for folks on the webinar, Monique, gosh love her, didn't know she was getting into this, but you can text chat. I'm gonna also ask her to read some of those text chats off as we do some of the sessions, okay? Fair enough? So before we go on to the next slide, I really want you guys to think for a second. Think, you don't have to close your eyes because I know some people find that weird. If you, but think about a time where you were excited about coming to work, okay? Think about a time where Sunday evening was not like, oh my gosh, okay? It was a time where you were excited about coming to work. When you came to work, you got lost in the time. You didn't realize how many hours had passed, right? That you gave it your all. And I'm looking around the room, and some people have a quizzical look on their face, like they're not sure they ever had one of those. But I want you to think back. There's got to be a time where it was exciting, right? Okay. Does anybody have a time like that? Okay. Okay. And when you envision that, did anybody have a face that popped up in their mind? Okay. Would you mind? I'm sorry, your name? Gabby. Gabby. Okay. And tell me, you don't have to tell me the person, but tell me what made that person, that experience special.
So I think I have to provide some context. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer from St. Lucia, Eastern Caribbean, and the person I'm thinking of was my principal because I was school-based. And she was just a really great leader. She was very proactive, very progressive, and made sure to schedule regular meetings with me because she looked forward to planning and building and innovating together. And so she made it worthwhile.
Very good. And folks in text chat, feel free, text in if you have some ideas, okay? Other folks may not have had a face that popped, but just an experience, and the emotions that came from that job, or adjectives that would describe that experience. Anybody here in the room or on text chat want to share that word or two? Yes, right in front.
Is it on?
I think it turns red when it comes on, but there we go.
So I worked on the Ebola project maybe about 2 years ago. In West Africa. And one of the things that was exciting to me is that every day we were trying to get to 0 cases of Ebola. Okay. And it didn't matter whether you were PhD, MD, whatever. When we sat around the table with a team of experts, everyone's opinion mattered. And then we had 2 meetings every day, one at 9 o'clock and one is at 3. 9 was to develop your strategy for the day, and 3 was to figure out whether that strategy worked, whether we were going to use it the next day. So every day was an exciting day. And there was no Sunday night where I was dreading. And we worked 12 hours a day, 12 hours a day. And I never knew that I could do that. But the level of excitement and engagement was here. And I'm still a bit high from that, from 2015.
That's great. Anybody else with it? Monique, you have it.
So Alex said he had stimulating work assignments and technically challenging work. And Dylan said, one of my first supervisors in government sat me down one day and said, "You don't work for me, you work with me. We work together." Very powerful moment as a new employee.
Excellent.
Thank you. And thank you so much for using the text chat. It was Dylan. Dylan, thank you, because we want to be participatory here, okay? And even though we have some folks in the room, we got tons more here, okay? And so let's keep that going, okay? And it's absolutely right, each and every one of you, okay? And so if I ask for one definition of engagement, let's be honest, we can't come up with one definition of engagement, right? Because your definition and what excites you, it makes you give 100% plus, okay? And what excites you and gives you 100% plus, and what excites Dylan or Monique or me, they're all a little different, right? Okay? Because it's a unique experience. It what drives us. And as leaders, we've got to tap into that in order to make our team, our employees, our organization engaged. You with me so far? Okay. Now you may say, people may say, why is employee engagement important? Is this just a buzzword? Is she just here because we're doing the survey now? Okay, that kind of stuff. Okay. Bottom line, as I told you, the survey is a snapshot in time. I am not here to promote the survey, although it's great to promote that with your team because it gives people a voice to be heard. It gives a starting point, okay? And you can see participation. You can also tell if participation is dropping in your organization, there's probably a reason why, okay? And I will share, my husband works for a different agency, okay? And when I always say, honey, you need to take the survey, right? Take the survey. And he'll be like, I'm just not taking the survey. I've taken the survey several times. I don't see any change. Okay. Well, one, I think I must have failed miserably because I have not taught him anything in the 18 years I've lived with him. Okay, but beyond that, that's a sad commentary, right? Because people are giving up hope. And really what we want to do, and as leaders, we've got to drive that, no, that survey is going to mean something. We are going to take the results and we are going to do something with them, okay? And so today's session is, even if people have that at the highest levels, that pessimism, okay, you can do something with it within your team and within yourself. And so that's our focus is going to be.
If you'd like to walk around.
Oh, gosh, love you. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I wander. I tend to be a wanderer. Okay, so we're going to talk about why it's important. And I'm just going to hit on a couple things. So first off, one, engagement is important. It's not just a touchy-feely thing, okay? It's important because it improves productivity by 20 to 25%. into organizations with connected or engaged employees. Okay. That's pretty significant, right? Think about your bottom line, your business results. Okay. Another one that we're going to talk about, employees who exercise their strengths. And I'm not talking about going to the gym and working out, but exercise their competency strengths. They, on a daily basis, are 8% more productive and 6 times more engaged. Okay. Think back to those of you who could remember a time where you were excited about going to work. Think about that and compare it to a time when you really weren't excited, where Sunday is drudgery. Okay. Disengaged workers have 37% higher absenteeism, 49% more accidents, 60% more errors and defects. Pretty significant, okay? And then the last two we're going to talk about because these are key elements and when we talk about some tangible things you can do. 86% of corporate executives, employees, and educators say ineffective communication is a major factor for failures in the workplace. And 58% of employees say poor management is the biggest thing getting in the way of productivity. Okay. So as you look at all of these, not just the ones I mentioned, do they resonate with you? If they resonate with you, raise your hand. Okay, great. In the room, I'm seeing lots. Text chat, please make sure you weigh in. Monique, do we have any comments from folks? Okay, cool beans. I put the next couple slides, and we're not going to belabor these. These were just so that you could see. You may look and say, why the heck did Kim ask Becky Johnson to come here? Okay, who is she? Who is that crazy woman? Who is she, and why is she standing here talking to us about engagement? Okay, so I just wanted to share with you, I do have a little bit of credibility, and so I was just showing a couple of things just within the Internal Revenue Service. This was just the last year where we had improvements showing our participation rates within the IRS as compared to Treasury and compared to the government overall. This one is my favorite. I started the IRS corporate engagement strategy in late 14 because we had been seeing this decline. And I was asked to start the corporate strategy in late 14. What you can see from there is during that time, you can see that we have made great strides in IRS. Okay. And that's despite some of the press and the budget issues and everything else that we've had. And so just to give you that feel. One other slide is to show you that as a leader, you can make an impact in less than a year, okay? Because some folks have it in their mind that this takes forever and ever and ever. And why even bother, right? People are cynical, okay. Just to show you, I came into the job in risk engagement, finance systems, and strategy in probably September-ish of 16. The survey was done in May-ish of 17. Okay. In that time, our participation increased by 11%. Our engagement index had an improvement of 8.9%. Okay. The one that makes me smile the greatest, because I was a third level, they're third level, so they're executive. Question 53, in my organization, leaders generate high levels of motivation and commitment in the workforce, almost a 20% improvement. Okay. That's less than a year. Okay. And guys, if I can do that, you can do that. Okay. You can do that. So you may say, wait a minute, okay, this all sounds great. I want some action items. I need to know how to do this. And I'm going to tell you, there's no check sheet. Okay? If there was a one check sheet and I handed it out to y'all, that'd be simple. But it's not. It's that one-on-one, okay? So I wanted to bring to your attention some people, every person has a different leadership philosophy, okay? I am a big believer, and what you see in a lot of the employee engagement arena is the idea of servant leadership. How many of you here in the room and on text chat, please, if you've heard it, please type, yes. How many of you have heard about servant leadership? Great. Okay. What do you know about servant leadership? Anybody willing to tell me? Yes, in the back. I think it's Bruce. It was
Yes.
Bruce. I did remember.
Servant leadership is exactly, I look at point 3 as you have there changing the pyramid, as opposed to seeing the triangle from the top down. You'll take your frontline staff and you see it as a leader from the bottom up.
Way to go, Bruce. I knew I liked you right from the get-go. Excellent, excellent. Anybody else? Yes.
For me, it's really the principle of the second to the bottom one, the energy and intelligence of others, where you grab the wisdom of people who are, more of your junior colleagues, and you help develop them so that they rise and take pride in what they presented, and you don't, as a leader, steal their ideas and pass them off as your own.
Correct.
Not that that's ever happened to me.
But it's true. It's unleashing that energy. It's tapping into showing folks that they have the ability. Yes, you were going to say.
I just wanted to add the word trust, because you got to trust the people underneath you, that don't be a micromanager of every single aspect.
Right. And that goes to the coaching, not controlling, right? There's trust, and it's coaching, not controlling. Okay. And when we say coaching, that means leading. And in some of the readings, it will say we're not talking about being a manager. We're talking about being a leader. Okay. And there is a difference. Okay. I see some heads nodding, hopefully on the text. Monique, do we have anybody on the text?
So Yvonne, actually, she also said trust.
Yeah.
Gary said employees will, Jesus is the best example of servant leadership. Alex said making sure your employees have what they need to do their best work. And Dylan said seeing and developing the ability of everyone to exercise leadership.
Right. Thank you. And thank you for folks in the room and on the text chat. I'm going to give a quick example, and Kim probably will be, I'm putting you on the spot, Kim. So like for this presentation, right? Okay. I could have just asked my team, hey, put together a presentation for me, right? I got to do this, put a presentation together. Let's see what happens. And I'll just take it. I could have looked at it, said, let's make this change, this change, this change, but send it to Kim and we were done, right? I could have done that. That's not servant leadership. That's not me. That's not bringing out the best in my folks. Okay? So I did it a little different. I started with taking some of the different presentations we've done in the past and pulling from some of those. And then I pulled my team together and said, hey guys, and I use guys, I'm from Ohio originally. I'm sorry, please don't anybody take it for anything else, that's just an Ohio thing. Okay. So I'll say, hey folks, how's that? Hey folks, we're gonna do this presentation. It's really important to me. Can we take a few minutes and look at this? Okay. And so everybody weighed in. Okay. And they all made some suggestions and tweaks, and and I reworked it. Then I shot it over to Kim. And I said, Kim, take a look at this. You know your audiences for these webinars, this leadership series. How does this work for you? And she came back with changes, right? She came back with changes. And I was like, sounds good. Okay, I'll take those and consider those. And I reworked it. And then I shot it through my folks again and said, hey guys, what do you think? Okay. Now, did that take a little bit more time? Absolutely, right? The impact, though, let me ask you, Kim, how did it feel when you saw the last version,
Actually, the first version was great too. The last version was even better.
When I asked my folks, I was like, guys, what do you think? And they were like, thank you for letting us have a say, right? Thank you for unleashing the energy and intelligence in us. They didn't use those exact words, but that's what they're talking about. Thank you for trusting us to weigh in, letting us share our voice. Okay? Thank you for explaining why certain things got in and certain things didn't. The development piece, like political savvy, things like that. Okay. Thank you for listening. Okay. And then the one for me is thank you for the self-awareness, because I know I am the cruddiest PowerPoint maker in all the world. Okay. Cruddy beyond belief. And folks stepped up and they saw that and they didn't say it, but they just said, let me help clean that up a bit for you. Okay. So again, servant leadership. If you are not familiar with that, I encourage you to take a look. There's a ton of literature. The Greenleaf organization is phenomenal. I will give you my contact information. If you can't find stuff about it, email me and I will get back to you. But just a great philosophy, and that really drives in employee engagement, okay? Now with our organization, and I'm just showing this just to, real quickly, when we did this for the Internal Revenue Service, we had a vision. And this was built from our senior or from our IRS commissioner who has since retired. But engaged employees, well-trained, listened to, have good managers, I would say leaders, but that was managers, and are given the tools they need to do their jobs. So you're looking at that statement, think about you, think about your team. Anything missing from that? And on text chat, if anybody comes up with anything we're missing from that? You're not going to hurt my feelings. Yes.
I would say a little bit of flexibility.
Flexibility. Okay. Talk about that. What does that mean?
If I'm a good employee and very productive and I have something personal I have to take care of, don't sweat me because it's not like I do it every day.
Yep.
And you never have trouble getting work out of me.
Yep.
Some managers get that, others are nitpickers, and then it's like, okay, you can help me when I'm having a crisis, then I will do the minimum.
Yep. Coaching, not controlling, right? Remember from the other slide? Yes.
Just to follow up on the flexibility, when you said that, I thought of flexibility around, a job description, but then the pieces that are underneath it and playing to people's strengths, so that if you have someone, who's a whiz at Excel files and someone who's not, you can beat the one who's not very good at it, or you can kind of shift job responsibilities to play to someone's strengths.
And that's key as well. Okay, so you got to be flexible as a leader, right? You got to understand your folks and how to get the most from them, right? What drives them. You also have to be able to understand how they're best fit, right? I'm sure all of you have had a time where you've been in a position that maybe wasn't the greatest fit. Has anybody had that? Is it just me? Okay, right? Were you engaged when you were not in the best fit? Nope. Nope. You just came to work that Sunday night. Those were heck, right? Okay. Trying to help, and as a leader, trying to help your folks when they're not in a good fit, find a fit, or helping others who are not a good fit somewhere else, trying to help bring them in. All part of that developing. Okay. Yes.
Please use the phone, the microphone, sorry.
I was going to add that I think the coaching piece is important, but the mentoring piece is important too. So not just looking at the bottom line of the company, but also, and dovetailing to what you said about, the personal flexibility and the work-life balance, but also investing in your future leaders from within.
Absolutely. Again, and that kind of goes to the developing and the coaching. Some people use the word coaching synonymously with mentoring. They are two different terms if you're a coach and a mentor, but that from the servant leadership philosophy, it's more about that leading component and understanding the person. And so that's where they were going with that, but you are absolutely right. You've got to grow people within your organization. It's key. We had 4 pillars of engagement. That's what we focused on. Listen, develop, lead, and support. Pretty simple, right? As an employee, as a manager, and as a manager, you are an employee, right? Okay. Do those kind of hit on your basic needs? If you're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, remember that little triangle? Do those kind of hit on what you would need? Not rocket science. So what I'm doing here in the next few slides is really focusing on what you can do. What's really important? We're going to talk about accountability. We're going to talk about communication. Okay? And I'm going to give you some tangible examples. Does that hit the mark for y'all? Okay. Don't want you to be bored out of your minds. Okay, good. Don't want it to hit the mark. So accountability, it's not only accountability for you, but for your team members and for your leadership. It should be everybody. Make the big picture clear to encourage employees to commit to their work. And this goes to your comment about the Ebola and the every day having a mission or a strategy, knowing what it was, everybody working towards that. And what I did here is I did tie this into the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, just in case you were interested, the various questions that directly tie to these keys of accountability, just in case you were interested. Another one, performance feedback. I'm going to give you something in just a little bit to help here, but how many love given performance feedback? How many love getting performance feedback?
It's all according to what you're looking for.
Okay, tell me about that. What does that mean?
As long as it's positive feedback, it's great. I love giving it, I love getting it. All positive, all good.
If you're truly trying to learn, to move to the next level, whatever that level is for you, the feedback is going to be important for you, whether it's constructive or not. You're going to look at it as information that's going to be helpful. That's the way I look at feedback. So for me, no feedback is bad. The feedback that some people might consider negative, I look at that and say, you know, your information that you gave me is useless to me, so you're a useless person. So I don't even look at it.
Well, and I always tell people, because you're going to get feedback. You've got to ponder that feedback. I think that is your point, okay? Ponder it, okay? So sometimes you get feedback, and yes, feedback is a gift. Sometimes you would like to return it immediately, okay? But feedback is a gift. And I have a story when I was going to go into one of our pre-executive programs years and years ago. And a person who mentored me, who I just think the world of, he pulled me aside. Okay, and so this was way back in like 2000. I've been an executive for 13 years, long time. I'm older than the hills. And so he pulled me aside and he said, Becky, you're going to be great, but I need you to tone it down. And I was like, what? Okay. Fortunately, it was on the phone, so he did not see my facial expression, okay? And he told me, tone it down. And I was like, what does that, so I was trying to be polite, political savvy people, okay? So I said, could you explain? And he said, well, you dress a little flashy, your hair is a little wild. People here in our organization won't understand that, and they won't be able to see beyond that. So I need you to tone it down. Now again, it was feedback. Okay, I got off the phone, I stomped around for days, okay, at home. Just stomped around, told everybody I could possibly tell. I was just ticked off, okay? But the more I thought about it, more I pondered it, I was like, darn, he's probably right, okay? Our organization at the time, very conservative. I wasn't going to be able to get past with, explaining with my talent or my skills, they couldn't see past. Not right, not wrong, but they couldn't see past because of the clothes and the hair and me. Okay. So my goal was, okay, I need to change that for the purpose of getting in and then making that culture different. You follow me? Okay. So if you notice, I really haven't toned down much, okay? For those in the room or for those on the tele, haven't toned down much, okay? But the feedback was helpful for me to think through what is that? Where is it coming from? Okay, right? I could have just called it quits, disengaged, and just walked away. But you use that feedback in some way. Okay, so don't ever, just keep it in mind, keep thinking it through. Okay. Now sometimes there is feedback where you say, no, that is absolutely not me. Thank you, and you move on. Okay. That happens. But ponder it a little bit. Don't just dismiss it right out of the gate. Fair enough? Okay. You'll see here, communicate as often as possible. Do it well and make it meaningful. Okay. Just think about that as we go to the next slide. I got the ticker. What did I do with it? There we go. Increased transparency. What does that mean to you guys?
That's what it says.
What does that mean? Because that means something different to everybody. Yes?
Explain the process.
Explain the process. Anybody on text chat? Anybody else? Yes, Bruce.
Provide the why.
Provide the what? Bruce? Gosh, love ya. He's great back there. Yes, Kim, Monique.
Yeah, this is not about the transparency, but Christopher had a comment. I believe the agency needs to teach new employees about the role of the federal employee in the workplace, including how the oath relates to our employment. That information, I believe, really starts the connection between employees and an organization, and it's impacted his staff's attitude.
Yeah, and that's perfect. And it does, I think that comment right there also ties to Bruce's comment about the why and the how. Tying things together, connecting the dots is typically what I call it. What is your role? What are your expectations? How does that tie to our goal, our group's mission? How does that tie to the agency's mission? Why is this important? We're going to do this priority. How is that important and why? And how does that connect to the mission, right? I have found, and I'll get to you in 1 second, I have found people will follow you anywhere, even if they don't necessarily agree. If you explain the why behind it, they will give you the benefit of the doubt and go along. They may say, I don't agree, but I'm going to give you the chance. You don't explain the why and you get malicious compliance, right? Okay. People know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Yes.
To me, transparency is also like the elephant in the room. People don't want to talk about the power structures that drive decision-making.
Yep.
And I struggle with trying to figure, that's like one of the first things I do is I analyze a power map. So I figure out what it's going to take, who we have to convince to get things done. To me, that ties into transparency. It's not spoken about. I don't know why, but
It's all part of, if you're looking at the executive core qualifications, I find that all part of building coalitions and the negotiating, influencing, persuasion component, okay? And the political savvy, right? You gotta know, unfortunately, most times you can't go straight line, okay? I wish we could. So you gotta kind of figure out how you move the pieces in the chessboard and who can you build a coalition with to get your idea forward? Okay. That's kind of taking us away from engagement, but I got a whole other time on that one. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry.
I had a question actually that someone emailed me. So The question was about how do you deliver feedback to an employee who said that they want feedback, but then is very defensive once the feedback is delivered, even when you've been careful to deliver it
Can
nicely.
I want to get to that. Can we hold that just for 2 seconds till we get to the engaging and effective communication slide? Just don't let me forget. Okay. Okay. All right. So these are some things for you all about accountability. Next one was communication. Okay. Great quote. It's impossible to lead effectively if you don't have an open line of communication with your team members. Okay. And like I told you before, I have been an executive for 13 years. I started my leadership career with Internal Revenue Service probably 25 years ago. Okay. Maybe a little longer. And what I always tell myself is if I knew then what I know now, I could have been killer. Okay. Just killer. Okay. Fortunately, you learn and you adapt and you're flexible. Okay. But here are some things. The first one, and this ties to that servant leadership slide I showed you. Ask yourself, am I giving my team members ample reasons to trust me? And so I go back to that very first leadership job I had in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. And we would do these employee viewpoint, they would get the work group results all the way down to the work group level. And we were mandated to have these meetings where we're supposed to talk about those results and come up with an action plan. Okay. The look on your faces tells me all. Okay. So, I'd pull these folks together. We'd sit down. It was going to be the agenda for the staff meeting. Everybody had the reports. And sure as shooting, I'd say, what do we want to work on? Dead silence, right? So I'd toss out, do you want to talk about this? Dead silence. Okay. You want to talk about that? What do you guys want to talk about? Nada. 15 minutes later, we wrap that baby up and on we go to a business matter. Has anybody had an experience like that or was it just me? Okay. I see some smiles. Yeah? Okay. So one of those things is back then I would just say, I talked to my fellow managers, we'd all say, oh, well, people don't like this. Okay. And we just move on. Think about it. Now, I would have spent much more time saying, did I set the stage for that conversation? Right? Maybe it's not bringing them all in a big room all at once. Maybe it's having some one-on-one conversations. Maybe it's listening, not even bringing up those results, just listening to people. Okay? And presenting it in a different way. Maybe it's me showing I heard them by taking some actions and then having the conversation. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Not rocket science, but it's just thinking it through. Okay. Admit you need frank feedback and the best ideas of your team members to succeed. Back to the presentation here. I could have given a presentation on anything, right? I could have put that one out there and be great. But this one, hopefully, was much better for y'all, okay? Because of the input. Because of the input of everybody. Find a feedback buddy, and I love this. Find somebody who's going to be honest, that you trust. Maybe not your best friend, because your best friend sometimes just commiserates with you, okay? But a buddy who will tell you when you're straying from where you want to go and who you want to be. Your behaviors and your words have got to match, okay? And this one, I'll be honest, I do this one all the time. Don't hide your weaknesses, admit it. People love to know you make mistakes, and what are you going to do from it? How are you going to learn? Okay? Nobody likes when you know, and you know when your boss makes a boo-boo, right? You know it. But when they cover it up, How does that feel? You lose the trust. Okay? Admit it, lessons learned, and we're going to move on. Okay? And the final one is do something. Okay? Try something. Tell people we're going to give this a shot. It may fail. Give me your feedback. Okay? Be honest about it. Relationships are critical, and we'll talk about this. I was just showing you here in our efforts within IRS, we built relationships internally and externally. These are some sources for you, especially externally. Partnership for Public Service, Human Capital Institute, the Corporate Executive Board. Great resources for you. All our nonprofits, all are great. Reach out to them. Tools, tips, okay? Now, to go to the question that came in on the webinar, on the text chat. Everybody will receive, I think you sent this out, Kim, or you will. We put together an engaging and effective communications guide. And I know it's kind of hard to see here, but we put this together, made it a formal form for IRS, which is a lot of work. It is 508 compliant. We're all good on all that stuff, okay?
I will send it out. Sorry, I haven't sent it out yet.
But this form, what this does is it's a little trifold, okay, that you leave on your desk. It's for employees and managers if you want, managers and employees, okay, to talk about how do you have a conversation. And some folks may say that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay? But think about it. Sometimes we hire people because of their technical knowledge, and they don't quite have all the skills for the softer, what we call the softer side, that communication, that personal piece. And sometimes those performance conversations or getting to know you, that kind of freaks them out. Okay? Right? So this walks you through how to have that conversation. And so I'm going to make sure all of you have that in the format so you could print it out, share it. One of the coolest things is that we shared this with Google. They actually put it on their website as a best practice. I know. Isn't that pretty darn cool? I was pretty psyched. Okay. So pretty successful. Okay. And we're going to skip through these because these are all the things that are on that slide 13, just in bigger. Okay. I'm going to give you one other thing. Small actions matter. Okay. Little things that can help improve employee engagement don't take much time, don't cost any money. Know your team members, peers, and partners. Coffee chats. I would do this, normally set it up for about 4 or 5 employees who ever volunteer. My folks are across the country. We just do it virtually. Pretend that we're sitting in a cafe or the Starbucks or wherever. And we just chat. Talk about vacation. They can ask business questions. They can ask about me. I talk about them. We talk about the pets. An hour just to chat. We talk about different projects so different parts of the organization can connect things. You cannot imagine the positive impact. Okay. One thing that kind of goes to that communication guide also, sometimes it's hard to figure out who a person is, or sometimes they compartmentalize. My husband's the best at that. He's got his work and he's got his home, and never do those meet, okay? Right? So you just ask somebody, what makes you smile? Okay. What makes you smile? I can just see when I ask that question, several of you get grins on your faces because that resonates with people, right? And you just listen and remember what they say because that's telling you a lot about them. Recognize the little things. Birthdays, just send a birthday email, e-card. Key to this, anniversary milestones, congratulations. Know your folks' recognition preferences though. If you have folks that are very introverted, don't do big hoopla, because that just ticks them off, okay? But if you have somebody who likes hoopla, do hoopla for that person. It's an individualized, you know your folks. And then hold monthly town halls, share information. Going to that transparency slide, the information. I always do a rumors, myths, questions. I set aside like 15 minutes. People, throw out, tell me what rumors are out there, what myths are out there, what questions. Let's talk about it. Okay? Good way to get to know what's going on, and people trust you to share, and you get back with some answers. I know we've had some questions throughout. Does anybody, real quick, so I'm down to about 3 minutes, any burning questions? How are we doing on the text chat?
Jessica wanted you to reread the quote that you read earlier from Maxwell.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, that's a perfect. Oh, tell Jessica. Great job, Jessica. Okay. Because that leads us to the thoughts to ponder, too. So the quote was, true leadership must be for the benefit of the followers, not to enrich the leader. Okay. And that goes directly to our thoughts to ponder. From Sheila Bethel, if leadership serves only the leader, it will fail. Ego, satisfaction, financial gain, and status can all be valuable tools for a leader, but if they become the only motivations, they will eventually destroy a leader. Only when service for a common good is the primary purpose are you truly leading. And that goes to your point about your example when you felt most engaged, right? Okay. Another quote, Martin Luther King. Life's most urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Okay. And then this last one, I didn't even know it. I have a person on my team who went through a really, really rough time in our organization. Okay. And I was coaching and mentoring and working with this person. And now he talks to folks. And when he talks to them, he always gives them this quote. Because one time as we were doing, our sessions, and I was just listening, and you always try to find, even in bad experiences, how that makes you a better leader. Okay. And so when we were having that conversation, he wrote this down. I said it, and he wrote this down, and he keeps it on his desk. And that's, be the leader you needed on your very worst day. Right? On your worst day. That is serving the folks. That is servant leadership in a nutshell. And that is because your folks will know that you care about them. And when they know you care about them, they care about you. And that's when you get employee engagement. Thank you so much for your attention, participation. I hope you got something from this. I do have my contact information. Please know, Kim knows, I respond. I don't have, I'm the only person who looks at my emails. I don't have any assistants. I do my emails by myself. I'm a little weird about it. So feel free. And thank you again. And thank you for the privilege of being able to be here.
Thank you, Becky, so much. So for everyone here, if you could fill out your little evaluation forms, and for folks on the phone and the webinar, and for everyone in the room, I will be sending out the link to the recording and also the slides and the handout that Becky referenced as well. So thanks, everyone.